Hello, everyone. Welcome to five trends to watch in diabetes tech. We're just going to allow for all of our participants to filter in. We've got a big group that's coming in for this webinar. And this webinar is actually also being recorded, and it is also being streamed onto Facebook as well. So we'll have even more virtual participants being able to jump into this presentation that we have. With you in the room on this webinar is myself. My name is, oh, it says Tina Brown. That's not my name. My name is Tina Sartori, but the funny thing is that's my maiden name. So funny how that happened. My name is Tina Sartori. I'll be your room captain. We also have Marcel in the room, and he is working tech for us. Kristen is also helping us out with chat. So since this is a webinar, if this is your first webinar that you've been to this weekend, it is a little bit different than being in one of the Zoom meeting rooms. So a couple of pieces that I just want to bring to your attention is at the bottom in the webinar, there are two boxes there. One is a chat box, which Kristen's going to keep an eye on to support anybody that needs it. And beside that is a Q&A box. So if you have questions for Adam, at the end of his presentation, please pop your questions into the Q&A box, and I'll help to facilitate those questions at the end of the session.
Okay.
So
you're ready? I'm ready to bring you live.
Okay.
Okay, so in 3, 2, 1, it's just starting to go live. Now you can start talking.
Welcome to 5 Trends to Watch in Diabetes Tech. We are about to have a presentation by Adam Brown. And Adam was diagnosed with type 1 in 2001. He's the author of Bright Spots and Landmines, a fabulous book for anyone who's at any point in their diabetes journey to read and get some great tips and tricks. He was also the journal and editor for a number of years at Diatribe and is currently working with Tydfil and working with that group to bring Loop towards FDA approval, which is pretty exciting. So maybe we'll hear a little bit about that this evening as well. At the same time, he's also working towards a master's degree in counseling psychology, and his goal is to be a licensed therapist to work with type 1s and to support their mental health along with their diabetes care. So without further ado, I'll throw it over to Adam.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for a lovely introduction, and I'm honored that so many would come on a Saturday to hear about what's happening in diabetes tech. And so I'll just jump right in. A couple disclosures that I think are important because you should know where I come from. First is I do work at Tydfil. We are trying to bring Tydfil Loop to market. I'll talk a little bit about Tydfil Loop in the automated insulin delivery section, but I think that's important to know. The devices I currently use, I think you should also know. So I wear the G6. I use Loop for automated insulin delivery, which is not an FDA approved or cleared product. And I wear an old Medtronic pump, which works with Loop. The last point is probably the most important, and that's that timelines on products in diabetes technology are generally really difficult to predict because things change a lot. And so what I've done is, from all my years covering all these companies and products as a journalist, I've gone to those sources, so company earnings calls, presentations, things like that. And so all the timelines are based on things that companies have said publicly. Generally, though, those timelines change. And I think during the COVID times right now, those timelines are really changing. So what I'm going to give you is the latest timeline that's been said publicly. And if you hear me saying things like potentially this year might happen, I'm sort of hedging a bit purposefully because it's a case where I might be making an educated guess based on what a company has said. So I'm trying to do the most faithful job of representing that, realizing it can be a little bit nuanced. Okay, so trend number 1 I think is really exciting, and that is Better CGM. So probably one of the next products we'll see in the US is Freestyle Libre 2. This has been out in Europe for a bit of time now, and these are a couple good product pictures of it. So what you'll see with Freestyle Libre 2, it's actually the same size sensor, but what they've done is they've added optional alarms for highs and lows, and also if you're out of range. And so if you're wearing Libre, it will ping the app or the reader with a high or low alarm when you cross your threshold. But then you still actually have to scan to actually get the glucose value. So they've kept that aspect of Freestyle Libre in the system. And I think part of that is to, again, they wanted to put users in control of when they access their glucose data. So if you're really interested in Libre 2, there's a really good 30-second YouTube video, which I've screenshotted here, that you can watch on how it works. But basically, if you cross the high or low threshold, you'll get this alarm that says low glucose alarm. You dismiss the alarm, and then you would scan the Libre sensor with the reader or with the app, and you would get what your value is and what the trend arrow is. Libre 2 will also be more accurate than the first generation Libre. And what's awesome is it's going to be the same price, and the size on the body is the same, which is also fantastic. And this sensor is 14-day wear is what the current one is in the US, the Libre 1, and it's fully disposable. So you take it off and put a new one on. There's no transmitter. And Libre is sold generally in the pharmacy, which often means there's less hassle to acquiring it, which is fantastic. I'll talk a little bit about pharmacy later. But this is, this has been under FDA review for over a year. So that's a pretty long FDA review for a product like this. So hopefully we'll see some news about that. But I think this is a product that is long awaited and will be welcome to a lot of people who like Libre but want the alarms. The next product is from Dexcom. This is the G7. And so this is the current G6 over here. And then this is the G7 over here. So you can see relative to the G7 is much slimmer. It's also smaller on the body. And one of the important, a couple really big changes, Dexcom's been working with the team at Google, Verily, to bring this to market. They've been working on this for several years now. And what's important is that this will now be fully disposable. So the current G6 has this 3-month transmitter that you snap into the disposable sensor. With the G7, this will just be one single piece, and you'll put it on, and then you'll dispose of it after the wear session, and then you'll put a new one on. So you won't have to deal with like sensors and transmitters. It'll all be one thing together. They're also making the G7 lower cost. So that will be important for catching up to Freestyle Libre, which is generally a less expensive sensor. They do expect it to be longer wear, is what they've said, than the current G6 is 10-day wear. So, hopefully something like 14 days with this, or perhaps even longer. You can see it's much slimmer. And so this is gonna be a really fantastic product. Because of the COVID-19, the pivotal trial was supposed to start I think fairly soon, but has been delayed by at least 6 months. So that's why you see my sort of wishy-washy language here. Like the pivotal trial might start this year. I doubt this product would launch this year. So it would probably be a kind of next year thing in the best case scenario. But yeah, this is going to be an excellent product. It's still going to have Bluetooth that'll go straight to your phone and Android or iOS. And then separately, Dexcom has been working on direct to watch, meaning you wouldn't need your phone nearby, like the transmitter would just send data right to the watch. And so we might even see that direct to watch with the G6, which is of course already out now. Okay, so that's an awesome product, long awaited. The last CGM that I think is really noteworthy to mention is the Sensei Onyx Eversense XL. And this is a newer product. So the 90-day version is in the US right now, and it's a 3-month product. So this is how big the sensor is. And the sensor is implanted in your upper arm by a healthcare provider. And then you wear this transmitter over it. And basically that transmitter powers the sensor and relays the data to your phone. And one of the cool advantages of that is that you can take the transmitter on and off as you want. So it's a much lighter adhesive So folks who have like a lot of adhesive troubles seem to like this sensor a lot because it's like a silicone-based adhesive, which is really nice. And you can, again, like take it off to shower and then put it right back on, and you don't burn a sensor doing that because the sensor and transmitter are two separate things. So the 90-day version is in the US right now, and they've been, in Europe, there's a 180-day version, so a 6-month version. And they have been in the pivotal trial in the US to get that. The pivotal trial was supposed to wrap up in March. I'm not sure if they've confirmed if it has, but they're planning, at last they said, to submit it to FDA this year. So that would be a really welcome change, because having to go get a new CGM implanted only, twice a year by a healthcare provider would be pretty awesome. Sensei Onyx is not taking new patients right now because of the COVID times, but I think this is a product to watch because, for 180 days, and it's a very accurate sensor as well. I think it's an important product. Okay, so that's notable products in CGM. There's tons of other products in CGM, but I'm keeping that pretty focused because I think those are the really exciting near-term ones to be pumped about. And speaking of pumps, this is the automated insulin delivery section, trend number 2. And this was the first product that came out in the US. This is the MiniMed 670G hybrid closed loop. It's currently on the market for 7 years and up. And my guess is a lot of people on the call will be familiar with this. So you've got your pump, you've got your sensor. It changes your basal rates every 5 minutes based on what your glucose trends are and tries to keep you in range. In the pivotal trial, the time in range was around a little over 70%, and the average glucose was around 150 that people achieved. It targets 120, which is a fixed target. And the sensor needs at least two to 4 calibrations per day. So that is a downside relative to other systems I'll talk about. I would say the reviews of the 670G tend to be kind of mixed. So for some people, it's a total game changer. And for others, it's had some challenges with alarms. And I think Medtronic has done a good job of taking all that feedback, and they're going to improve on it in the next versions. And one of the things they're going to do is they're going to launch something called the 770G, which will have the same 670G algorithm, but is going to update the pump hardware a bit. And it's going to add the ability to remotely update the pump, which is important for reasons I'll discuss in a sec. It's going to add Bluetooth and a mobile app. And that will be nice because it's also going to launch for ages 2 to 6. So for parents who want to monitor kids remotely, that ability to have Bluetooth and a mobile app will be really nice. So the 770G, which is the same algorithm, but those hardware pump improvements, that has already been submitted to FDA, if I'm recalling correctly. So we could see that fairly soon. And I'll talk about the 780G in a second. This is really the newest pump on the block, system on the block. This is the Tandem Control IQ with the Dexcom G6. And it's available for 14 years and older. What I think is really, there's a couple things that are really awesome about this product. The first is that it does not require finger sticks because it uses the G6. You can calibrate if you want to, but like wearing the G6, it runs your closed loop algorithm and automates your insulin delivery every 5 minutes without needing finger sticks. The second thing that's really awesome is it can do automatic correction boluses. So if your blood sugar is predicted to go over 180, it will actually give you an automatic correction bolus, a fairly small one. So it's not hammering you with a bunch of insulin, but a safe one. And that can give you like a little bit of extra oomph to get back into range. Other things that are really awesome is that you can software update your pump from home. So for instance, a lot of people had the precursor to this product, which was Basal IQ. And so Tandem launched a device updater whereby you could just plug it in at home and update to Control IQ. So you don't have to get a brand new pump to get basically these improvements, which is really fantastic. And they're going to launch a mobile app for it very soon. So you'll be able to view your pump data on your phone as well. And that will upload your pump data and CGM data to the T-Connect software. They've also submitted it to FDA for 6 years, 6 to 13 years old. So that would expand the indication. And there's a ton of reviews of this product online. I think people really like it. And yeah, it's a really solid product and a really great addition to the automated insulin delivery systems that are available. So that's the Control IQ system. Okay, so now this is, these are 3 systems that I think are getting close. So these are, I would say they're close to FDA submission. Maybe they've like recently finished the pivotal trial that will support the submission. And so that's the MiniMed 780G, Tydfil Loop, and OmniPod Horizon is currently in its pivotal trial, which is on pause right now. So the 780G, you can see the hardware actually looks the same as the 670. But again, here's this mobile app they're going to launch, and they are also adding automatic correction boluses. So it'll be a little bit more aggressive than the 670. And it will have a lower target. So the time in range that the system accomplishes should be higher than the 670G. And they've fixed a lot of the alarm issues and just like hassles of the 670G. So this should be a much better product than that. And Medtronic, I think, is offering an upgrade pathway right now to get on this product for some out-of-pocket fee. I can't remember what it is off the top of my head. So that's, you know, it's hard to predict like when it will be on the market, but the pivotal trial is going to be presented in a few weeks at ADA. So that I would say is getting close. Tydfil Loop, this is a product, again, back to my disclosures, that I've been involved with. And basically at Tydfil, we're trying to take the do-it-yourself Loop app, which a lot of brilliant people with diabetes have figured out how to make, and we're trying to bring it to FDA and make it available on the App Store with a prescription. And then you would be able to talk directly to compatible pumps and CGMs via Bluetooth. So you would not need a Riley link, which is this little communication bridge device that allows people to loop. And there's also an Apple Watch app for it. And we have said publicly that we are submitting to FDA this year. Can't say much more than that, but the study that is supporting this has had some data presented publicly, and we're working really hard at Tydfil to make this available on the App Store and get it through FDA. The first partners we've announced are Insulet, OmniPod for the pump side, Dexcom G6 CGM for on the CGM side, and then a future Medtronic insulin pump we hope will be compatible as well. And then OmniPod Horizon is also a really exciting product. It's currently in its pivotal trial. And what I think is really unique about Horizon is that the algorithm to automate insulin delivery is actually in the pod itself. So if your handheld controller or phone is not in range, like you'll stay in closed loop because you'll just have the CGM on your body and the pump on your body, and the CGM and pump talk to each other and keep you in closed loop insulin delivery, which is really, really an awesome feature. So what Insulet has said is that it will initially launch for Samsung Galaxy phones. So there won't be an iPhone version, is what they've said publicly at launch. But like I said, OmniPod will be compatible with Tydfil Loop, which is on iPhone as well. So that's in its pivotal trial. The pivotal trial was paused for a bit, but it was supposed to resume in June. And so yeah, again, these are 3, I think, really awesome, exciting products coming soon, and definitely ones to look out for. Okay, and then this is just a quick slide. These are what I would call next-gen products that aren't quite in the phase of pivotal trials yet. And for those who haven't heard this term, pivotal trials, it's sort of the data you collect on people that you would submit to FDA to get the product cleared or approved. So Lilly is making their own hybrid closed-loop system. It will be on a phone app. The pump I've seen in person, but I've not been allowed to take pictures of it. And it sort of looks like a shuffleboard puck. It doesn't have a screen. And then that'll use the Dexcom G6. Betabiotics has been working, this is the Ed Damiano's team, for a long time on the iLet, which will have insulin and glucagon in these pre-filled glass cartridges, which is really nice. And I think the system has a lot of really cool advantages, like to start up, you only enter your body weight and it adapts over time and gets to know you. They want to be compatible with both Dexcom and Eversense CGMs. Because of the glucagon needing its own brand new approval, this pivotal trial hasn't started yet, but I think that will be an exciting addition to the number of systems out there. And then Bigfoot, I'll talk about their smart pen efforts, which is what you see right here in the foreground. That's what they're focusing on first, but they do have a closed loop system in the pipeline, which has been a bit delayed. And so that's not really near its pivotal trial yet. Okay, so that's trend number 2. And these final 3 trends are pretty quick, but I think they're still really important ones. The third one is smart pens and infusion sets. So this is the smart pen available on the market now. And by smart pen, what I mean is it's a reusable insulin pen that has Bluetooth in it, and it sends your dosing data to the phone. And it also, so it can track your insulin on board based on what you've injected. And you can see it can show your insulin data combined with your CGM data, which is a lot more useful than just seeing the CGM data alone. And it has a bolus calculator in the app, which is really helpful. So again, it brings a lot of the benefits of pumps to those who want to keep using injections. And that's been available now. It has pretty low copays in the pharmacy. And I think a lot of folks really love this product. It's a really good product. There's a few other upcoming smart pens that are coming out. So Novo Nordisk has had a smart pen that they've tested a bit in Europe, and they're planning to bring that to the US. Lilly has already submitted a smart pen to the FDA. I've never actually seen what it looks like, so this is just kind of their standard quick pen. That's been submitted to the FDA already, although there hasn't been a lot of updates on it in a while. And then Bigfoot is working on their smart pen cap called Unity that would also do, and all of these things do pretty similar things. Like they track your insulin doses, they track how much insulin's left in the pen, they send that data to your phone, and ultimately they're gonna help people on injections dose their insulin more safely and effectively, because you'll have that insulin dosing data and be able to optimize your dosing, get smarter information, and ultimately, I think, close the loop for injection users. So based on your patterns and trends over time, I think these apps will give people advice on how to change their insulin injection doses to get better outcomes. And so that's really exciting. There is a little bit of work on better infusion sets. I think I wish there was more, but these are some of the big ones. So Medtronic and Unimedical have this product called the Mio Advance that's been out in Europe for over a year now. And it is cleared by FDA, although they haven't launched it yet. I think they're really trying to build inventory, but it is a fabulous, awesome product. I've used it a few times, and basically the way it works is you pull out this tab, you pull off the adhesive off the bottom, you hit the button, and it inserts the set and then retracts the needle. So you never see the needle. The needle never like manually stays in for you having to pull it out. And it's all in one disposable inserter. So kind of similar to the Libre or the Dexcom inserter. And then it just leaves the set there and you plug in your tubing and you're off and running. I found it to be less painful and cause like less trauma at the site. So I'm really hopeful we'll see that in the US, because it is cleared and it has been out in Europe for a while. Medtronic also just got European approval for a 7-day wear infusion set. So hopefully, I think that's still either starting its trial soon or is in its trial in the US, but hopefully we'll see that come out, because that would be a really nice improvement over the 3-day wear sets. They've added some special technology so that people don't get the hyperglycemia, the high blood sugars you often see when you extend your set past 3 days. These are a couple others that I think are just really interesting. This company called Capillary is trying to make a flexible sensor. So, sorry, a flexible catheter or cannula. And it will be resistant to getting kinked. And it also has these additional holes on the side. So you'll get like more, ideally, hopefully get more consistent insulin absorption, because you get insulin flowing out of multiple places instead of just one place. So that's their goal. They call it the steady set, and that's still in development. So hard to predict when we might see that. This is another one from Unimedical, who makes most infusion sets that are available. It's called Lantern. And what they've done is they've actually added these slits in the side that make it look like a lantern. And so when you get kinking or, like some muscle rubs up against the catheter, it allows the slits in the lantern to open and keep letting insulin flow out. So again, I think these infusion set stuff, it's often not as sexy as like new pumps or new apps or new CGMs, but the insulin has to get into our bodies reliably and safely. And so these are really important things that people are working on. Okay, and then two quick last trends that I think are important that folks might not know about. Number 4 is this move to bring diabetes technology into the pharmacy. So a lot of what we have in the US is often called DME, or durable medical equipment. And reordering supplies can be like this tremendous hassle of like having to call a supplier and a middleman and getting authorization from the doctor, and then it doesn't get received, and it's just a whole mess. And so there's this big effort to basically make diabetes technology just like a drug. So your healthcare provider would prescribe it, and you could go pick it up in the pharmacy like 3 or 4 or 5 hours later. And I think that's the vision that a lot of these companies are trying to get to. Abbott is actually already there with Freestyle Libre. So when I first tried Libre, I got a prescription from my healthcare provider, and it was ready in the pharmacy in 4 hours. First prescription, no paperwork needed, nothing. It was just like one prescription ready for pickup. Dexcom has been trying to do this for a while. They've been moving a lot slower. And I think really you can get G6 in the pharmacy, and they have this copay card that you can just Google like Dexcom pharmacy. Not every insurance company will process your Dexcom through the pharmacy, but if they do, it's often less expensive to get it through the pharmacy channel. And it can be less hassle, which is really nice. So Dexcom can generally tell you if it's available through the pharmacy and how to go about doing that. But that can be really helpful, because then also you can reorder it just by refilling your prescription, like in the Walgreens app or the CVS app, which is just so much easier than like the traditional way of doing it. Insulet with OmniPod Dash is also launching in the pharmacy. OmniPod Dash has been out for a number of months now, and more and more people are getting it through the pharmacy. So the PDM is actually the wireless controller for the OmniPod is free, and you just get the pods like just like you would get a drug. You just get the pods like refilled every month, or some people get them for 90 days, and you just go pick those up in the pharmacy, and it's a lot easier. It also allows people with type 2 diabetes to benefit from pump therapy, because there are a lot of requirements around getting a pump if you live with type 2 diabetes, and those don't apply if you're getting one in the pharmacy. So they've seen a lot of people with type 2 diabetes wearing the OmniPod Dash, which I think is really awesome and exciting. Okay, and the last one is sort of a grab bag catch-all that I'm calling data, telemedicine, and virtual care. And, I think sometimes it's important to remember, for me, like, why is diabetes data important? And for me, it's really summed up in this slide, which is some work I've done at Diatribe, trying to figure out all the factors that influence blood sugar. And there's at least 42. And, it's not just that there are 42 variables, but you can't track or manage all of these variables. You can't measure all of them. You don't know which variables are in play at a given time. And so it's really important to use diabetes data to understand patterns and try to figure out what's going on and brainstorm solutions, try experiments. And I think that's what data is really helpful for, is trying to understand some of the complexity that we're dealing with. So I'll skip that one, and I'll just share some of the things that I think are important in diabetes data. So at Tydfil, again, where I'm an employee there, we have a really great free platform for viewing diabetes data, and a lot of providers are using it for telemedicine. You can see your, it combines your insulin pump data or your injection data, if you have a smart pen, and your blood glucose information all in one chart. You can see this on a daily basis, and I think just really helpful for seeing your trends and your time in range And we also have a mobile app where you can add little notes that can just be helpful for tracking things if you want to just track things for a week and kind of see what's going on. Gluco is another popular app for viewing your diabetes data and doing telemedicine. I believe they've made Gluco free during the COVID. It's free for patients, I think, in general. And I think they've done a really good job of getting a lot of devices compatible. And in this app, they have these nice emojis for your patterns, which are really useful. So another great product. One that I use a lot is the Dexcom Clarity app on the phone. Is really nice because you can kind of look at your data on your phone. And you can also get these automated email notifications like weekly or on your lock screen that'll tell you like, hey, you know, here was your time in range last week. Is it increasing or decreasing? Here's your pattern of glucose information, which can be really, really helpful for just seeing how things are going. If you use the Freestyle Libre, the Libre Link app is really awesome. These are screens from the Libre Link app. So the same app where you scan your Libre sensor has these data plots in it. And those can be really helpful. This is an app I've kind of used off and on. It's called Under My Fork, and all one word. And it pulls the CGM data from Apple Health, and then you take a picture of your meal, and it overlays the CGM data from your meal. And then it has this really nice feature where you can see meals that had high time in range and meals that had low time in range. And all you have to do is just take a picture of the meal and make sure your data is going into Apple Health. So that would be the Dexcom users. And now they have insulin dosing in here too, which is a free app and can be helpful. And then this is just a quick one. You know, companies are trying to apply artificial intelligence to CGM data so that you could get more nuanced and clever patterns. So for instance, imagine on Saturday morning seeing like, hey, you tend to go low between 12 and 3 on Saturdays. Like imagine getting that notification on Saturday morning at 9 a.m. Like you might actually be able to do something about that. And the vision is actually bringing all of this intelligence and data into closed loop systems so they can operate in a much smarter and more intelligent way. And I think this is my last one. It's called the Advisor Pro. It's made by DreamMed, and this is a pump settings optimization software. So based on your glucose trends, it will recommend updated basal rates, insulin to carb ratio, correction factor. And so a healthcare provider would use this. So some providers are testing in the US right now, but I think this will be just, you know, it's just a cool example of diabetes data, like making our lives better. I think that's really cool. And then there's plenty of coaching programs out there to actually talk with a human. My Sugar and One Drop, I think, have two particularly good coaching programs that give you a bundle of supplies. They're delivered to your door every month. Often they're cheaper than a copay, and you get access to an educator right on your phone. So those are two good ones to look at. And that is a rapid fire 5 trends in tech. I think I'm a little bit over time.
It's okay. Are you ready for the rapid fire questions?
I am. Let's do it. I see 51 red things, so let's go.
Okay, so does the current Sensei Onyx CGM have a share feature like Dexcom?
Yes, it does. I know they just launched it for Android, and I think it's already available for Apple iPhone.
Does the 780G still require calibration?
Yes, it will still require calibration. I think that at launch, it will be twice a day still, maybe once a day. Depends when they launch their improved CGM. But Medtronic's a little bit behind on CGM, so they're not quite at where Dexcom and Abbott are.
Have you heard there will be a watch-capable apps for either ROF, not sure what that is, or the new MiniMed pumps?
That I have not heard or seen. So yeah,
Okay.
Dexcom's the only one with the watch, and then Loop will have the watch as well.
Someone had asked about the G7 launch. Was that one of the ones where it was not sure, just based on what's currently happening?
Yeah, so what they'd said for a long time was it will do a limited launch in later this year, and it will do a big launch next year. And that they had stuck to for many years, that timeline. And then now with COVID, the pivotal trial, which comes before the launch, before the submission, has been delayed 6 months at least. So the pivotal isn't really even done. So I don't think there's any way it would launch this year, and maybe it depends on when they restart that trial or start it up, that it would come out potentially next year, but I'm just totally speculating there. So yeah, it's probably not a 20, I would be shocked if it was a 2020 thing.
Okay. Is Betabiotics using a machine learning algorithm?
I believe they do. Yeah, it's built into the pump.
Do you know whether or not you need a prescription for InPen, or can you just buy it from the pharmacy?
You do need a prescription for InPen.
Do you expect Medtronic to catch up with other systems in the next few years, or do you think they will stay a step behind and always playing catch up?
Well, I think it's important to remember they were the first in the US with a closed loop. So I think the 780G is a much better product. Like that sort of allows them to catch up to the Tandem Control IQ product, though they're still a bit behind on CGM. They have a product that's down the pipeline after the 780G called personalized closed loop. And so the idea with that product is to take all the artificial intelligence and make a personal algorithm for Adam or a personal algorithm for Tina. And the pump would be constantly adapting and being more clever. So I think that'll be really exciting. It's still a bit, a couple years off probably from where we are now. So I think Medtronic, I think they will catch up. I mean, all the companies that kind of push each other to move really fast, which is great for us as people with diabetes.
For sure. Will the Tydfil loop only be FDA approved with Apple?
Initially, yes, but Android is in our roadmap.
Okay. Will the Capillary Steady, or that new infusion site that you showed us, will it be compatible with all pumps or only certain ones?
They're not even at that point yet. So yeah, generally companies, they develop the product, they get it cleared, and then they have to do all these commercial partnerships. So they're still in the kind of development stage.
None of the apps that you shared, it must be the series at the end, are compatible with Medtronic. Is this correct? Because Medtronic does not have a Bluetooth capability yet.
That is correct. So Guardian Connect, which is their standalone CGM, does have Bluetooth, but that doesn't talk to the pump. So I think they are moving to Bluetooth with the new system. I suspect 780G will have a Bluetooth CGM. So hopefully they'll start to share data with more apps. One thing I would note is if you feel like a company should be sharing data, say with Apple Health, and it would improve your care, like please tell these companies to do stuff like that. I think that's one of the things we believe at Tydfil is that your data is yours and you should be able to take it and use it in other apps that benefit you. So companies, when they hear that from their consumers, I think it helps push them in that direction of being more open and being more transparent, and that's really important.
Any word if Control IQ is going to have an update, specifically to give more options for exercise, like being able to turn it off altogether?
That I don't know. Yeah, I don't know about exercise and Control IQ. I will say that on closed loop, this is probably a different topic, but I generally just turn closed loop off around exercise and just kind of deal with it manually. Personally, I get better outcomes that way. So my advice would be, you can always experiment with different approaches. Like you don't have to feel like you must use the closed loop during exercise if it's not working for you.
Do you have any news on the Tandem Sport and a potential launch date?
Well, it's been a bit delayed because of the COVID pandemic, so I don't think it would be this year, I think is what they've said or alluded to.
Can you just briefly describe what that is? Some people may not be aware.
Oh yeah, the TSport is, so it shrinks the size of the T-Slim and it takes the screen out. And so you would wear the TSport on your body or in a pocket, and then you would control it wirelessly from a handheld or a phone. So it would be more like the OmniPod, like tubeless, but it would still require an infusion set. So sort of a hybrid pump. And they're changing the reservoir design and making it rechargeable and doing some other things. So yeah, it'll be a different product, but yeah, because of just how things are going right now, everything's just a little bit delayed.
Can you create a loop with OmniPod and the Libre?
I think you need an attachment for the Libre, but you can find online not FDA approved sanctioned ways to do that.
Yes, I believe you need a Meow Meow to go with it. It's another device that sits on the Libre.
The
Apple
loop does
Watch,
work with the OmniPod. Yeah, if you have the right Riley link, which is this little thing.
Yeah. Is there a system where you don't have to input carbs? I believe that's what you were talking about with Betabiotics.
Yeah. Yeah, so Betabiotics, and I think all the companies are trying to move to this, which is this idea of you would just say, like, I'm eating a small meal, I'm eating a medium meal, I'm eating a large meal, and it would kind of know what that is for you and would dose you for it appropriately. So Betabiotics, I think, has been like the pioneer of sort of wanting to do that, but I think Medtronic is trying to move to something like that. And I think Tandem is also trying to move to something like that in a future Control IQ. So yeah, hopefully that's where things go.
Could Tydfil be available on Chromebooks? It's what prevents me from using an amazing service.
You should tell the sport team that. Yeah, email Tydfil support and request it.
And I'm pretty sure this you did answer for us. There isn't currently with Tydfil, there isn't a projected launch date yet, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
But we have said we're submitting to FDA this year.
Okay. Why is the Freestyle Libre 2 considered to be more accurate?
I think they've made some updates to the sensor algorithm to make it more accurate, and they've shown some of that data. So they wanted to achieve the CGM thresholds, and perhaps that's why it's been under review for so long, but they've made some adjustments. So it's much more accurate in hypoglycemia, which I think was a kind of a weakness of the Libre 1. I don't know what specific changes they made to it to do that, but that's what Abbott has said.
Okay. Any top smartwatches you recommend for being able to see your blood sugar readings?
I think the Apple Watch if you're a Dexcom user, I think the Apple Watch is a really good choice. I've gone back to an analog watch just to not have too much technology in my life. So it goes both ways. Yeah.
I agree. I have the same. My watch doesn't get my readings either. How do updates with Dexcom work with a system like the Tandem Control IQ? Do you know if Dexcom is working towards improving the adhesive? Thank you for your talk.
Yes, they're definitely working to improve the adhesive. I'm not sure I understand the first part of the question, but because of this new interoperable framework, companies can more easily incorporate, if Dexcom comes out with the G7, Tandem can quickly bring that into G7, or same in Tydfil loop, is what our goal is. So I think it's going, in the past, Animas worked with the G4 and the G5 came out and there was this insane delay. And then, that will become less and less of a problem because of the way FDA has changed how it regulates each component of the system. And so they're trying to make it more of an interoperable, interchangeable components rather than regulating the whole system. And then you have to get a whole new system approved. So I think that'll be less and less of an issue going forward.
Okay, we've got a couple more. What sort of time and range has been reported from people who are using Control IQ with Tandem?
I don't think they haven't shared the real world data. In the pivotal trial, I think the time and range was 73% in 72 or 73, can't remember, in 70 to 180. And that was published in the New England Journal of Medicine, which is a really big deal medical journal. And people started at 59% time in range. So they got 2 more hours per day in range on Control IQ. But of course, that's an average. So some people got, if you came into that trial with a really, a reasonably high time in range, you got, some people got into the 80s on Control IQ. And then if you came in with like an extremely low time in range, like you still improved, but you might have only got into the like 60s. So yeah, it all just depends like where you start and kind of how you use the system, I think.
Okay. I'm just scrolling through. Do you know why Sensei Onyx has not really picked up a larger user front in the US? Any thoughts on that?
I think it's a new system, and that always takes time for companies to build. I mean, Dexcom and Abbott have been at this for a really long time. And I think healthcare providers can be skeptical of new stuff just when they haven't seen it out for a while. I think having to go to the office, the current product is 90 days. So you know, if you want to wear CGM all the time, you have to go to your healthcare provider 4 times a year. And you know, they're a smaller company than Dexcom and Abbott, so just like less feet on the street, less time in offices. I do think when they get to 180 days, like that's a game changer for that product, because then it's only going twice a year, and so I think that'll be an important update for them. The other big challenge for them has been the payer insurance reimbursement, because that just takes a really long time to establish and get the deals. And because they're an implantable CGM that the provider inserts, like it's different than say like me ordering Dexcom or Libre. It's like a different product in the insurance mindset. So I think they've had to do more creative things on the insurance side.
You had mentioned about with G6 or G7 having that capability of the Dexcom talking directly to Apple Watch, and was that currently it's not happening. It's hopeful to happen with the G7 when that launches, but there's potential for it to work with G6 if G7 gets delayed. Is that accurate?
Yeah, so actually it's supposed to happen with G6 was my understanding. So recently Dexcom launched a new lower cost transmitter that if you wear Dexcom, you probably are already using it. It looks totally the same, but that added a firmware update to the transmitter that was a critical piece for having it talk direct to watch. But I think Dexcom has been working on it for a really long time because they really want to get the experience of it right. So I don't think they've given updated timing on that in a while, but technically my understanding is it should be compatible with G6, but I don't know when or if they will launch it with G6.
Will the Medtronic 770G require calibrations?
Yes, definitely.
Okay. With Tydfil Loop, is there any agreement with Medtronic that would prevent Tydfil Loop also supporting Tandem in the future?
Not to my knowledge. We wouldn't do, Tydfil is all about like working with as many companies as possible. So again, we have Insulin OmniPod pump, we have Medtronic pump, we have Dexcom CGM. We hope like all the companies will join so you could pick your device and have a whole, you know, have an interchangeable system with the same app.
Okay. Thank you so much, Adam. We kept you 15 minutes longer to be able to navigate all of those questions. So thank you for staying on a bit longer with us. And thank you for sharing all this information. Those top 5 trends to watch are super exciting. You're getting a lot of praise and thank yous in the chat box as we wrap up as well. And thank you to our participants. We had up to 83 people who came in to hear this webinar, which is amazing. For those of you who are still with us, Marcel is going to pop a survey into the chat box, so feel free to fill that out to give us some feedback on this session. And your next opportunity tonight to sign on is 7 o'clock for our concert and social. So thank you so much for joining us, Adam. Thank you to the rest of the tech team, Marcel and Kristen, and to all of our attendees. Have a great night, everybody.